Welcome back to part 14 of my real life video series. I left you with my surveyor and I talking, and my surveyor telling me that he possibly screwed things up with that corner. Okay, that was beautiful. So my surveyor screws up and I almost get shot. So I called the logger and I said, "Look, you're just gonna have to wait till I get back down there." I said, because something's jacked up. And I said, "All right, how long until you can establish where my property actually starts, where the boundary, the corner is?" And he's like, "Well, it's gonna take me a week or so to figure it out." He goes, "I'm not sure how I got it screwed up. I got it screwed up." And I said, "Okay," which is amazing to me because this is the same surveyor. And I didn't know this at the time, but it's the same surveyor that did the deed description for the parcel of property that Pinhead had purchased on at auction. So, you know, you would think that since he did Pinhead's property and my property adjoins Pinhead's, that he would have a fair idea where my property line starts, you know, but apparently not. So I actually called Pinhead and I said, "Listen," I said, "I'm real sorry about that." I said, "You know, obviously my surveyor screwed up. I wasn't trying to do you dirty." He said, "Oh," I've already talked to your surveyor and he explained it to me." He said, "I'm real sorry that you know that I talked to you the way I talked to you. I'm normally not like that, but that was my daughter's driveway that you were in, and I didn't know it was dark, and I didn't know who you were, and you know, whatever." So, he apologized, which, by the way, and you'll find out in the future, Pinhead is very good at apologizing. The whole time trying to stick you in the hind end, but he's very good at apologizing for his endless screw-ups, endless faux pas. So, anyway, a couple of weeks go by. My surveyor says he has a fair idea of what's going on, and I said, "Well, okay, well, I'm going to head back down to Southeast Kentucky and get with you, and then I'm going to try to get with this Gregory guy and see if we can't agree on something. I just want to get the timber cut. That's that was the plan." So I go back down there, and that was, by the way, right about the start of the stupidity with the deal with Frito. Okay, that's when that whole thing started to kind of kick in. And with Super Trooper and all that stuff, and I sold that boundary over there next to Frito, and my logger at that point was ready to start. And you guys know that story. Just refer back to previous versions of the real life. But anyway, so I get down there, and I meet with the surveyor, and he sits down. He's got this little preliminary map, and he's kind of showing me what's what. And then I got with Mike Gregory, Pinhead, and I said, "Are you happy with this?" And he said, "Well, I'm not really happy with it." He goes, "I don't really think it's right." And I said, "Well, what don't you think is right?" He goes, "Well, I believe that I own up," and he pointed up to this big rock. Which, if that would have been the case, I would have owned maybe an acre. I don't know. And I looked at him, and I said, "Surely you don't think you own 500 acres?" And he just kind of grinned at me. This is kind of the game. And here's part of the problem. All right. Part of the problem is this: very few people actually get a surveyor in that neck of the woods. Even what Pinhead had was only a quote unquote deed description. It wasn't actually a legal survey. What I try to always accomplish is just that, a legal survey, something that you can take to court if need be. So one of the things that makes things difficult down there is, over the years, people have owned property. They've traded property for money, for livestock, for wedding dowries, all kinds of reasons. And property changes hands. But nobody ever gets a survey. So, what it is somebody says, "Well, that property starts at the Big Rock and goes up to the ridge and then over to the Hickory Flat and then down to a creek and then follow the creek to this, this stump and then from the stump over to where. That's the kind of shit that you're looking at when you're talking about property down there. And most of the time they've got it wrong. And not to mention, an old chestnut stump. That stump hasn't been there in 50 years. Or define a large rock. Some people's idea of a large rock is a rock the size of a Toyota, whereas other people's idea of a large rock is a rock literally the size of a house. So it's one of those things, and over the years, things get kind of confused. And for the most part, that's kind of the way they like it down there, truthfully. You come in there with legal surveys, now you're just upsetting the apple cart. It's just crazy. It's just a different world. So I said to him, I said, listen, we've got to be able to work something out. Because I have all the intentions in the world of cutting this timber, and I said I'm working out a coal contract with a coal company, and I said, I need to have property lines established. I mean, there's just no getting around it. And he's like, well, blah blah blah. He's like, well, I want you and I to be friends. I'm a good guy, and I think we might be able to agree on something. And I said, listen. I said, I tell you what, why don't we just at the very least agree on something for timber purposes, In fact, I said, why don't you what, I'm going to have a logger in here cut my timber. I said, while he's here, you know what, he can cut yours, you can make a little bit of money too. Everybody can be happy. He's like, well, I think, well, okay, here's the problem. Pinhead is a pillhead, okay? He loves pain pills. Takes them like, candy. I mean, literally like candy. So when you're dealing with Pinhead, you're dealing with a dude that's just, he's chemically unstable. That's what he is. 1 minute you're dealing with what seemingly is a rational, normal human being, and the very next minute you're dealing with a freaking lunatic. That is dealing with Pinhead. So, anyway, I come up to a conclusion. Listen, we got to a point where I thought we had it worked out. So I said to the surveyor, I said, go ahead. I said, mark that off. I said, I think we can work this out. And at this point, things are starting to really get going with the situation in Lambert. So I kind of felt like I had bigger fish to fry, truthfully, than that 50-acre property over there in Levi Branch. But whatever. So I thought Pinhead and I had a deal. Okay. And we agreed to at least that, at the very least for timber cutting purposes. And we left it at that. I had a map, he had a map, everybody had a map, everybody seemingly was happy. So that's why I was really surprised with what was about to happen. So anyway, it's 8:02 right now. I'll actually come back and let you know what started to transpire between me and Pinhead. So anyway, talk to you soon.